Miss Gina Lestrade, you will supplement your formal testimony by repeating that last statement, please, for some reason.
What, Superintendent? What are you on about? Don't give me all your fancy talk. I know what you're trying to do. Well, it won't work on me. That's right. Insult the judge. Always a good move. I was straining my ears to work out what was going on, but all I could hear was snoring. Snoring, you say? What sort of snoring? So you were straining to hear what was happening the entire time? Since the moment you hid yourself? Not exactly, no. Was she sleeping too? Was everyone here sleeping and was just not observing the scene of the crime? Sorry? Well, there was no one in the cabin to start with. I could just push the cushion up and have butchers to see what was what. But then, when I saw this swell getting on, I got my head down so he didn't notice me. And Mr. McGilded sat on the seat under which you were hiding, correct? Yeah, would you Adam and Eve it, eh? What a mug. So then all I could do was listen. I was waiting to jump out of there as soon as I heard him leave, see? But would he? Not likely. Even though we stopped here and there and never heard the door open. So I just had to stay put and listen to him driving his pigs to market, snoring like an old dog he was. Are there any conclusions we can draw from that, I wonder? Surely you would have heard the door open when the second passenger got on, right? Miss Lestrade, what you have just told the court is clearly at odds with the facts. Huh?
At odds? Are you sure, man?
Absolutely.
It seems my learned Nipponese friend is not as dull-witted as I feared.
So Van Zeeks realized it too.
Counsel, I must insist that you bolster your claim with evidence, or some complicit party's name at the very least.
Yes, my lord.
I expect you to demonstrate this alleged contradiction to the court.
According to Miss Lestrade, while she was hiding in the omnibus that night, she heard nothing but the sound of Mr. McGilded snoring. But think, Ryunosuke. Think. There's something else she should have heard. So the question is, what reveals this? Because I think she probably should have heard the victim get on. Right? So if we look at people, right? Now maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree here, but the victim, a skilled but poor brickmaker who apparently owed the defendant a considerable sum of money. Because as she's stating it right now, she heard the defendant get on, he sat on her, and she heard nothing else aside from him snoring from then on. But she should have heard the victim get on, no? Very well, my lord. Allow me to elaborate. On a particular sound that Miss Lestrade could not have failed to hear on the night in question. The sound very clearly explained by the presence of the following person. The victim. Your Honor.
Thrice fired Mason?
Yes, my lord. The sound that Miss Lestrade cannot have failed to hear is that of the victim, Mr. Mason, boarding the omnibus.
Order! Order! Explain your reasoning, counsel.
Miss Lestrade, allow me to confirm something. You claimed earlier that you were the first person on the board the omnibus. Is that correct? Yeah, of course I was. I got on while the driver was in the pub, didn't I? And the next person to board the omnibus was Mr. McGilded. That it was. Not a soul was in the cabin when I climbed aboard. At least, not in plain sight. So, you were to all intents and purposes alone in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus at that time. Did you not just say as much? I wasn't travelling with anyone else, if that's what you mean. Yeah, I saw him get on, remember? Through the crack under the seat cushion. He was on his own for sure. And from what we've heard, the carriage made a number of stops after that on its onward journey. During which time did you not hear the door opening or closing at all? Nah, I never heard it. That's exactly what I was listening for, wasn't it? Waiting for the swell to leave. In which case, when and how did the victim end up in the carriage? Oh! We know that the victim collapsed inside the enclosed cabin of the omnibus. Therefore, Miss Lestrade's statement about what she did or did not hear is at odds with the facts.
Yes, this petty thief's statement was clearly flawed. Lord Van Zeeks.
Yes. Wait, how is this helping my client? He knew. He knew all too well that there was an inconsistency in Miss Lestrade's statement.
It would seem words of thanks are in order for my learned friend.
What are you talking about?
You have demonstrated matters impeccably. This witness and her colorful statements are entirely unreliable. Her words are convenient untruths, nothing more.
See, yeah. He's dead right. How could the victim possibly not have boarded the omnibus? That makes no sense whatsoever. This girl is a pickpocket? Let's not forget that. Granny? Go. Okay, new theory. Victim came in through the sky lights. Yeah. She didn't even say anything. I didn't want to judge the dear little mite just because she has some rather naughty ways. But I must say, I can't abide liars.
And neither can I. Mr. Foreman! I didn't want to judge the girl just because she has some less than salubrious ways. But I must say, I cannot abide liars.
Guys. Miss Lestrade, you're losing me, my jury! Mr. Nahoda, that's 5 jury members leaning towards guilty.
I can see that, Susato. Well, your consideration for others is refreshing, my Nipponese friend. To the considerable troubles you have spared me. Yes, very refreshing.
Ah! What are you playing at? Have you forgotten who you're looking for, you useless Ace Denomadon?
This is carnage. It's perfect.
Juror number 2, please. Juror number 2 is the only one left. You know he's innocent. Just look at his tantrum down there. He's clearly innocent. Mr. Nahoda, so I think this is going. I know. If we can't find some new way to convince everyone of Mr. McGilded's innocence, the judge will rule, and we'll have lost. Juror number 2. I very much wanted to believe the words of one of London's most respected gentlemen, but those of us in service know we must accept hard truths. No, juror number 2! The witness's last statement seems to have revealed a critical inconsistency in her story. Why am I cross-examining my own witnesses so hostilely? However, if we consider the possibility that her statement is in fact the truth, it may shed an entirely new light on this whole case. Yeah?
What are you saying?
Gina, please be telling the truth.
Counsel!
I'm sorry, sir. Whatever do you mean?
Counsel, I will not tolerate you attempting to prorogue my education. Explain yourself at once.
Well?
When the accused boarded the omnibus on the night in question, the victim was nowhere to be seen. Subsequently, the carriage door was not heard opening a single time, as testified by the witness in the stand. And yet the victim's body was found inside the carriage. Seems unlikely to me. If this petty thief's words are to be believed, how do you explain the victim's miraculous appearance inside the cabin of the omnibus?
Skylight. Yeah. There's only one way to explain how the victim came to be inside the carriage. Wait, oh no! I did not mean to... I didn't think that was an actual... I wasn't trying to actually choose a thing, I was just progressing text. Clearly it was in there already beforehand. No, he wasn't. Objection.
Tell me, my learned friend, what was the function of that clearly in your last sentence? Well said, Lord Von Zeeks. The clearly is troubling me also.
No! That's really not the point. The point is that the victim must have been in the carriage from beforehand.
Then answer me this. By beforehand, to what specific point in time are you referring?
Well, clearly,
I shall have to penalize the defense heavily for this irrelevant rambling.
I must learn to ramble more relevantly.
The penalty is evidently not heavy enough, judging from those Nipponese eyes, so I ask you again. If this petty thief's words are to be believed, how do you explain the victim's miraculous appearance inside the cabin of the omnibus?
Don't accidentally click the top thing. Only one way to explain how the victim came to inside the carriage. There's another entrance, clearly. If the door wasn't opened even once, the only explanation is that the victim entered the enclosed cabin some other way.
Objection. I wonder what new fantasy you would come up with in your blind panic. But behold, the omnibus is here for all to see. Only one side of the enclosed cabin is furnished with a door, the other has only windows. Fixed windows which cannot possibly open. In short, there is no entrance to the cabin other than the door.
But there could be! There's one possibility you haven't considered.
Oh, really?
Yes, one other way inside that isn't the door. Another opening, the use of which allowed the victim to appear inside the enclosed cabin.
All right, counsel. The defense will identify the location for the court. Here is the omnibus on which the incident occurred. Where on earth is this entrance by which you propose the victim entered the cabin?
It's right there, Your Honor. The answer is obvious. It can only have been the skylight.
I say, the skylight?
Objection!
Your ludicrous proposal almost has me lost for words. However...
Objection!
The skylight may well be large enough for someone to pass through.
Objection!
So you claim, but you have a shred of evidence to support your addle-brained theory.
Both Mr. McGilded and Miss Lestrade said the same in their testimonies. They each claimed to have heard a loud thud, such as the noise made by someone falling to the floor.
Yes, which has already been explained. As the sound of the victim falling from his seat, having been assaulted with the dagger.
Yes, it has. But would a man slipping from the seat onto the floor really have made such a loud noise as witnesses describe? A noise loud enough to cause Miss Lestrade to let out an involuntary cry, in fact?
Good gracious!
Perhaps, in fact, that was the moment that the victim made his entrance into the cabin. No, let me rephrase that. The victim didn't enter the cabin as such. He fell into it.
Objection!
You're now suggesting that the victim fell from the skylight into the cabin. That's simply impossible.
How can you be so sure?
Because if the victim had fallen inside through the skylight, as you say, the passengers on the roof deck would have seen it happen. And yet, not one person made mention of such events in their testimony.
Well, yes, that's true, but might a humble fellow make a wee comment here? Mr. McGilded. To be sure now, the two fellows who were sat on the roof that testified before said nothing of the victim falling through the skylights. But it seems to me, my lord, that 'tis not so much a case of them not saying it, but tis a case of them being unable to say. What? I think perhaps the two fellas do be having something of a compelling reason not to be mentioning what happened. Which is not a grave one, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Oh my goodness, surely not.
Those two chaps on the roof? You mean the ones who struck the knife? Stuck the knife in the man?
Oh!
Just what exactly are you insinuating here? You blitherer?
You rotter, he said! You rotter! What are you insinuating?
This is a flaming outrage. I've a good mind to give you a blinker in a minute.
He'll give you a shiner in a minute, he said, and so will I.
Mr. Fairplay, you're effectively accusing me, a city gentleman and well-respected banker.
And me, a very angry hatter.
Suggesting that someone like me could have stabbed that man in the guts? It's a disgrace. It's scandalous. I protest. I protest in the strongest possible terms.
That's right. I protest too about you rotten scoundrel. Witness stand's getting quite crowded.
Order, order, order! This is not the time, witnesses. I will not permit this wanton invasion of the sand. Return to the anteroom at once. But this is beyond reason, my lord. It's outrageous.
It's very hurtful, you know.
My lord, if I may comment. Go ahead, Lord Von Zieks. It was the defense that incited this outburst from the witnesses. My learned friend has seen fit to abandon all protocol and accuse the witnesses without proof.
Accuse? I never intended to.
It seems, young Nipponese, that your command of the English tongue is wanting. You proposed to this court that the victim fell through the skylight from the roof deck of the omnibus. That hypothesis cannot possibly stand without the rooftop passengers being aware of the events. You have branded these gentlemen liars. You have intimidated their criminal guilt. Or intimated, rather, not intimidated. This is not witness intimidation, it is witness intimidation. Very different things. In our British courts of law, that is what is termed a baseless accusation.
I know I was rash to put this idea forward without any actual evidence, but you can't just dismiss it without a second thought. It's plausible. What are we wasting time for? Get them to testify. I thought there was something fishy about that hat from the moment I laid eyes on the fellow.
We have to see this matter through now, one way or another.
If there's filth and rubbish in our midst, we must dispose of it at once. Yeah. What's happening, Mr. Naruto? The spectators in the public gallery they're in a complete frenzy.
Mr. Fairplay and Mr. First. My lord. You will take the stand again and make another formal testimony in reference to the indictments brought by the defense. Yes, my lord. Though, as far as I was aware, the defense does not have the ability to indict, so what is the meaning of this?
I didn't come here for this. There's no time to think this through. All I can do is keep pushing forward. Refuting the accusation. We were the only two people on the roof deck, dead or alive. I can swear to that. If anything had happened where we were sitting, don't you think the other of us would have noticed? In any case, neither of us know the first thing about the victim. We had no reason to kill the man. The skylight was shut the entire time, I tell you. We couldn't possibly have opened it. If you're so sure the victim fell through the skylight, where's your proof?
I must say that on listening to this testimony, it is somewhat hard to imagine how either witness could have performed any malevolent act on this open rooftop deck without the other noticing forthwith.
So then clearly they're working together.
That's right, you see.
We're innocent, I tell you! Although logically, of course, the argument falls down if the two of you were in collusion with one another.
What? According to investigations by Scotland Yard, these two witnesses share no common dealings.
Ha! Well, I don't trust coppers any more than I trust the stinking rich. Something doesn't feel right here. The trial is going in our favor, really. So why do I feel so uneasy?
Counsel for the defense, over to you. Your cross-examination, please.
Oh, yes, my lord. Cross-examination. Refuting the accusation.
We were the only two people up on that roof deck, dead or alive. I can swear to that.
Oh, can you? So at no time did the victim, Mr. Mason, climb up to join you on the roof deck?
Absolutely not, Dickon.
No question about it, he said. None at all. Oh, but yes, of course. I remember seeing them both. I saw the victim inside the enclosed cabin talking with this man here.
Is this true, Mr. McGilded?
Dear me, my lord. At the risk of repeating myself, I boarded the omnibus alone and nodded off inside almost immediately.
That's an outright lie. Without doubt, you were engaged in.
Let me stop you there, fella, and ask, do you have any evidence at all? At all? It's all about evidence in the courts these days, so it is. You do well to remember that.
I saw you with my own eyes.
This is going so well. If anything had happened where we were sitting, don't you think one or the other of us would have noticed?
Well, it was on the final run of the omnibus at past 10 o'clock in the evening. It would certainly have been quite dark. Perhaps too dark to see clearly. Is this some kind of lark?
This is some kind of a joke, he said. Is that what this is? Or perhaps one or the other of you fell asleep briefly?
Are you fair dinkum, sir?
Are you serious, sir? That's what he said. It's impossible, I tell you.
I'd give you the keys to the vault if you could fall asleep in that bitter cold. And if you did manage it, your eyelids are freeze shut, and you never open them again. In fact, that can't be true. That's extreme.
It was extreme, I tell you, and we had to put up with it because this man had locked the door.
Oh.
Hey, true, Chent. What if unlocked it and let me in when I knocked? I'm dreadfully sorry about that young fella. But you see, I was away with the fairies and I didn't hear you at all. That's a lie! I saw you through the glass. You were talking to someone. No, 'twas a cold night, so it was. People do be saying things that ain't real in the cold. 'Tis hardly surprising. Saying things?
I believe we have reached an impasse here on this particular point.
You. Don't take it personally, no, lad. If I'm a suspect in this case, then it's only fair that you and the other fiend are too. Open and free competition is what a capitalist society is all about. This isn't a competition I should like to be involved in, really.
In any case, neither of us know the first thing about the victim. We had no reason to kill the man.
I mean, not every crime involves good reason. So, you had never met Mr. Thrice-Fired Mason before?
Oh, no. Not once. Never.
I never met the man before, he said. Never! And what about you, Mr. First? And you, Mr. First, had no particular dealings with the victim either? That's right, sir. Hatters don't have much to do with brickmakers, to be perfectly honest, sir.
No, I imagine not. You see? How many different ways can I put this? Neither of us have the remotest connection to the gentlemen who were inside the cabin.
Well, that's not quite true, is it, Mr. Fairplay?
Excuse me.
Mr. McGilded.
Yes, counsel. What can I be doing for you? Did the witness's last statement give you pause for thought somehow? Not the remotest connection. Is that right now? I wonder.
What are you insinuating now?
Ah, Mr. Fairplay. It's been too long, so it is.
It?
If I'm not very much mistaken, I believe 'tis fast approaching, is it not? Your repayment date.
I beg your pardon.
You borrowed 20 guineas from me, sir.
At an unconscionable rate of interest. You tricked me. It's extortion.
Well now, is that a touch of begrudgery, is it? A sort of begrudgery that might motivate a fella to pass his crimes off on another.
Ah!
And young Mr. First. Me, sir? What do you want with me, sir? You do be making hits for a living, do you not? That there is Tobet sliding around the yard. Is that one of your own creations, is it? Oh, well, I'm still just an apprentice, you understand. I'm learning to find the perfect fit for whatever fine gent walks through the door. The perfect fit, is it? Well, 'tis a very distinctive design, so it is.
Many customers like it, I tell you. They like a distinctive touch.
Customers, such as thrice-fired Mason. There was a photographic print of the victim submitted as evidence for me, lord.
Oh, this you mean.
Ah, that does look like some hat. I can't help thinking that the poor fellow's hat looks distinctly familiar. Wouldn't you say? Oh! That's one of my hats! Aye, that it is. So it would seem that Brigmay was a customer of yours. A sort of customer, I'd wager, you could have had a wee quarrel with over the distinctiveness of the goods. Oh no, sir, absolutely not, sir. Well, there's really nothing more to add. Don't be right to say that the two fellas here haven't the remotest connection to the victim, you see. I rest my case.
You little weasel. Ah.
He's better at this than I am.